Welcome all to another episode of Paladins Lore. Today we'll be talking about the mysterious race of rock men and women known as the Staggalla. So, without further ado, let us begin. A rock may crumble as eons blast away at its weathered hide, but a soul lasts forever. Can you create a soul? Can you breathe life and sentience into something that was not? Such questions might have been better off unanswered, but alas, the realm at large is not often afforded such conveniences. As often is the case when one goblin gets talking to another, a blight had begun. Goblins began their murmurs of domination, murmurs that cascaded into rhetoric which stampeded into armament, and eventually, war. First, it was the Earth Mother and her guardians who tried to stop the invasion of the first Green Scourge. They were burnt to the ground, their ashes used as war paint. Then, the scattered forces of the realm and its many races tried as they might to tear out the invaders and restore peace. These efforts ended with less than satisfying results. Even the Paladins, in their prime, the same warriors and sorcerers who had defeated nearly every single threat that had ever faced the realm, led by the Grand Wizard Karn and the immortal General Valera, took the field against this foe. And they were defeated. It wasn't exactly fair, however. These goblins would die. In fact, entire armies of them would crumble, falling dead to a single spell cast from Karn's fingertips. But more always came, and the swarm never halted. How does one fight against an army with infinite reinforcements? How does one beat a force that never grows tired nor old? From that same hole in the ground that the first goblins had crawled out of, they simply never stopped coming. And city after city, province after province, country after country fell to the malice and dishonorable scourge that had afflicted them. But Karn is not the kind of man to sit idle, and Valera is not the kind of woman to abide such injustice. The two would try as they might to curtail this incursion upon their peaceful lands. They personally took to the field, only to be forced into retreat after days of torturous warfare. They would even go so far as to send scouts into the subterranean lands from which the goblins had come, in search of any kind of weakness. And well, needless to say, those scouts were never heard or seen from again. Some theorized that the goblins had merely eaten these scouts alive, while others suggested that the intense heat generated beneath the crust of the realm was simply too much for even the most powerful of mages to handle. Either way, a solution was no closer to being found, and while goblins would die by the hundreds of thousands up here, underneath the realm, in the safety of their molten rock-brewed chambers, millions of goblins grew and matured into the frenzied, angry, and power-hungry creatures they were always destined to become. These goblins didn't just want domination. They didn't want surrender. They wanted total and complete dominion over the realm, and that meant there simply wasn't enough room for anyone else. It was in this state that the realm nearly collapsed. Farms couldn't keep up with growing demand as the once verdant fields of the realm became war-torn scars upon the land. City guards and the armies of noble lords were drafted into war, leaving cities helplessly underprotected, allowing criminal underworlds to rise, some of which still survive to this day. Desperation quickly grew into insubordination, threatening the already tenuous alliances that had been forged in the name of defeating the Scourge. And in the face of this complete and utter collapse of the realm at large, it was the Grand Wizard Karn who proposed a grim solution. Now, I'm betting you probably want to know what happened next in regards to our favorite sentient stalagmites, huh? Well, I can't tell you. Alright, I can tell you, but before I do, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and like this video and subscribe. I'm also gonna need you to watch some of my other videos for Karn's sake. These Paladins lore videos easily get 3 to 4 times the views I get on most of the videos I spend weeks working painstakingly hard on, and, well, that makes me sad, and that's not good. So show this channel a little bit of love and help an impoverished, struggling creator out. Anyways, back to the video. So, as I was saying, it was the Grand Wizard Karn who first stepped forward with a potential solution. Since the mortal forces of the realm cannot handle the heat and violence below the surface, we must make something that can, the Grand Wizard said, gripping his staff in white knuckles. With my magic, Valera's immortal blood, and a living soul, I can do what must be done, he concluded. Now, today, such cooperation between these two might seem unfounded, but in the past, well, these two heroes were far closer than one might think, and so it was with a heavy weight upon their collective consciousnesses that they agreed to create life in the hopes that it would serve them loyally. Admittedly, not much is known about the grand spell that Karn and his most powerful magicians cast, but when the dust had cleared and the rubble settled, there stood sentience where before lay none. Karn had chosen to fashion this new life from the same molten magma that had spewed from the earth, and so, when the magma cooled and became rock, that rock became alive. They were called the Staggalla, and with them came exactly what the Paladins had been desperate for. They could survive the heat of the realm's core. They could fight with all the vigor and strength required of a Paladin, and they could defeat the goblins with the rest of the realm's help. But they did not want to. These stone men and women had not asked to be created. They had not wanted to come alive and be forced to fight, and no amount of Karn's commanding and berating would change that. Instead, it fell to Valera, and the charisma that came with her thousands of years of living and leading to change their minds. Valera spoke to the leader of the newly created Staggalla, the first of their kind. A woman known as Inara spoke for her people. And in Valera, she found not just a being who had sought to use her and her people as weapons, but a friend. And so the two friends struck a deal. The Staggalla would help the Paladins. They would brave the molten depths of the realm, and they would crush the goblins below the surface. And, in return, the realms below would become the new home of her and her people, a home that would be undisturbed by any and all surface dwellers until the end of times. Valera naturally agreed, and so together the combined forces of the Paladins, the United Realms, and the newly created Staggalla rode into battle. Above ground, the Paladins fought fiercely, slaughtering their foes and giving their lives so that below the crust, the Staggalla could destroy the brood chambers and seal off the exits by which the goblins could escape to the surface. With the goblins' main line of reinforcements, and indeed the source of their strength, cut off, those left above ground were destroyed, smited from the realm by those who sought vengeance. And when finally the bloodshed had ended, there were no further words to exchange. The scourge had finally been defeated, and so Inara and her people stayed below ground, making a home of the goblins' former kingdom, and there they slumbered, unknowingly waiting for the day that the realm above would force them yet again into reluctant warfare. But that is a story for a different time. Thank you for watching. This has been so good. Reminding you once again to help a brother out and watch some of my videos, please. But more importantly, keep on loving good stuff.